This is the Initiates Podcast. Here, we create space to explore the path of initiation as we reawaken the forgotten wisdom that resides within us all. I am your host and guide, Natalie Grace. Join me every Thursday for an enlightening exploration of contemporary spirituality. It's my honour to journey with you. Hello again, my beautiful friends. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I am going to be talking about negative projections into the energy field today. Last night, I was in ceremony with my cacao at my altar. I was seeking healing. That was my prayer, to feel calm peace in my heart. And interestingly, what came out of that ceremony was a really potent channeled message that asked to be shared. So that's what this episode is about. I have been reflecting over the past 3 or so weeks on a really obvious shift in the collective energy. And I will say, if you are listening to this episode long after the publication date, I encourage you to keep listening, because this is something that the message that's shared is so important, and it's going to help fortify you, strengthen you, empower you, so that when these kind of energetic interferences in the collective energy field happen, you can navigate them with more ease and retain a sense of peace and harmony, even when it feels like the world and your community is getting a little bit erratic and chaotic. So before we get started, I do have some fun news to share. We are celebrating a birthday here at the Initiates this week. When I was recording this episode, I realized that we'd passed a very special date and that the Initiates is now a year old. So happy birthday to this podcast. Thank you so much for being part of the journey. And if you would like to celebrate with me, if you would like to show your appreciation for this podcast and the work that I do, please pause the episode right now and go into your podcast player and leave a rating or a review if it allows. I'd be so appreciative, and it would be a wonderful gesture to help me know that this is reaching people and to celebrate with me. You can also send me a message to say happy birthday. It's always lovely to hear from listeners. So thank you so much for being a part of this journey for this first year. And I look forward to the episodes to come. Okay, so the collective energy. I've noticed a shift, and I wonder if you have too, in the feelings in my body and also the messages that are flooding social media at the moment. After such an intense and long period of chaos and stress and discord, it's been a beautiful space to arrive in for a proportion of this year, where we've had some peace and some normality and some serenity. But those periods are always pretty short-lived. And what I'm sensing and feeling and witnessing in my field right now is a new infiltration of the energy of fear that's being projected into the collective. From my perspective, mostly via social media. There's not much in like the mainstream news that I'm seeing at the moment that's creating this energy like we saw with the pandemic. This is different. This is conspiracy based, and while I'm a big fan of conspiracy theories, I definitely believe that there are many operations running. In fact, it's my ultimate belief that everything's an op, but that might be something to explore in another episode. I also understand, after being on this journey and being in this sphere for many years now, that conspiracy narratives are really effective in creating low vibrational frequency in the collective field. And on an individual level, creating reactions, emotional reactions of anger, of judgment, of resentment, of emotions, and also takes away from the beautiful high vibrationary state of feeling contentment, feeling joy, feeling love, feeling acceptance, which is the emotions that underpin this energetic sense of serenity that we've been able to access recently. And so I've witnessed a kind of change in tone in the conversations that are happening online in the communities that I'm a part of, where we're being returned to a state of fear-induced victimhood and disempowering ourselves with the things we're talking about, getting stuck in feedback loops, just constantly pushing the same messages and the same content that ultimately we didn't create. This sharing of what I actually feel is nefarious content, even if it's coming from the right team or the right side, it has been designed to create a very visceral reaction of fear within our bodies when we receive it. And then in my own body, I've become very aware of a sense of unease, although it's taken me a while to understand where it's coming from and what it actually is. There has been an awareness, a growing awareness within me of a feeling of slight anxiety that I don't think is coming from my own world, that's actually being projected in from the collective field. And it's affecting me in my body in ways that are just becoming noticeable. So feeling discomfort in my body when I've actually sat with it through embodiment practices with a conscious awareness, trying to understand what's going on. I don't feel right. Noticing that I have a slightly elevated heart rate that won't seem to calm itself, and started to notice that my breathing has become more shallow at some point recently, but I can't quite pinpoint when that was or why that was. And, there's stuff happening in my environment that can trigger these kinds of reactions, but this is like a sustained elevation of heart rate ever so slightly. And this sustained experience of when I catch myself and my breath, noticing that it's very shallow. And so when I've actually meditated on that and why that might be, I can definitely pinpoint the peaks that might occur when I have some stressful situations in my environment. But it's generally quite calm in my world at the moment. So I really do sense it's actually coming from the field. It's a reaction in my physical antenna to transmissions that are being projected out into the world. And so that's what this message is all about. It is about how to protect ourselves from negative narratives on social media, in the news, whatever it might be, that are designed to elicit fear reactions in our body. Even if they're not conscious, these are subconscious reactions I'm talking about. And for us to create a more conscious awareness of how we get swept up in these whirlwinds or floods of information that is designed to be shared, to spread this energetic virus, if you want to call it that, that's designed to lower our vibration and return us to a stage in the journey that we've already progressed through. I will mention that the tone of this message is very potent. The language is quite strong. It's a different kind of guidance that I normally share here. And I think it's for a reason, because the guides that came through were different. I'm not someone who can actually identify my guides in their uniqueness, but I can definitely feel that the energy that came through, that was channeled through me in receiving this message, it felt much sharper and faster than the usual kind of poetic flow that I receive, that's full of beautiful words. This contains really like direct language and even some swearing, so just be aware that that's the vibe that's coming through. I think the wisdom keepers are wanting to be very direct with us right now, because we are smarter than this. We are smarter than falling for the traps of viral content that is spreading fear and anger. And just to be clear about what this corresponds with, my feelings in my body have been corresponding with people talking about politics again online, reviving COVID narratives, and also getting really swept up in diagnosing the origins of the recent fires in Hawaii. All very tragic and real stuff, but there's an effect it has on us when we're not directly impacted ourselves by these events, either because we're past them, they're in the past and we're now in the future, or they're happening around us but not to us. I think I'll leave that there and I will get straight into the message, and then I'll return afterwards with some reflections. So let's journey. There is a negative energy bubble around our earth, a projection that's oppressive, like one of those sticky nets that shoots out and traps something. It's infecting our beautiful world with negative discourse. It creates negative feedback loops for us to get trapped in. Like a skipping record, we are flowing on edged grooves. We expect to keep traveling in a forward momentum until the song is finished. But then the record has a scratch and it skips, and we end up back and looping over and over. We get stuck. We lose momentum. We don't evolve forward. Politics are polarity tricks. There's no compassion, no humility, only ego. I am right, they are wrong. No contentment, no acceptance, no happiness here. It's a trap. Do not buy in. These narratives are solely negative. If they offered us solutions, we'd be in the 5D by now. It doesn't matter which side you are on, because you're not supposed to be on a side. You're supposed to be the whole. You're supposed to be love. You're supposed to be compassion. You're supposed to be humility. You are supposed to create. You're supposed to feel magic. These polarity tricks rob you of your magic. They are using you in dark magic. They are designed to siphon your vitality, your life force. They are designed to dim your light. Everything is an op. Every single thing that happens here is observed by someone. They learn from it. They sometimes manipulate it to happen or to change its course. Other times, they simply sit back and watch, take notes, collect data to inform a new op in the future. All content can be traced back to the CIA meme lab. There is a meme HQ full of CIA agents. One wing wears black hats, the other white, but they're all CIA. They're all creating or influencing the trajectory of the op. They use tools, sound, visuals, language, to manipulate our emotions, our energy spheres. Just because it's alternative media, just because you see it on Telegram and not the news, it doesn't make it real or true. Does it make you feel good? Or does it make you feel angry, resentful, trapped, vengeful? Content that is authentically created from the heart won't elicit these emotional reactions. If we are making or sharing content that spreads anxiety, fear, anger, resentment, judgment, then we're acting as subcontractors, sub-agents for their fear campaigns. Feel what this content does to your body, to your nerves. If in your body you feel stress, you feel nervous tension, you feel erratic energy, this content is not good for you. It's not for you. It's not to be shared. It's not informative or educational. It's the op working on you and through you. It's another virus. It spreads across the internet and affects our energy bodies. We have to stop consuming this shit. Do we bury our heads in the sand? No. If you care, if you want to learn the truth, get off TikTok, get off Instagram, and go and research what you care about properly. Stop talking about politics and politicians and how the world you live in is a shithole, and go and explore why you feel that way. What is actually at the core? Why are you outsourcing responsibility for your safety, for your contentment, for your happiness to the lowest vibrational beings, the most ego-driven people on earth? Why are you complaining about a system you already don't believe in? Disengage, free yourself. Stop sharing negative content that you didn't create. If sharing the message is important to you, then create your own message and share it in your own voice. Stop repeating alt media slogans that you didn't make up yourself. Start speaking from your heart. Start seeking your own truth. Stop being lazy and start caring more. The time for spreading other people's fear is done. We already lived through this. We will not give our power up again. We will retain our power, our vitality, our life force, our energy, our time. We will speak a higher truth that empowers and lifts all who hear it. Be precise with your language, because speaking is a spell. If you woke up through COVID, you are a beacon. You are at the top of a mountain, keeping your eyes out for others seeking a higher position. You are here to guide them, to hold the space as they climb up to meet you. They will need to overcome their own limitations to ascend up the mountain. Your job is to hold the frequency of having climbed to the top. You are not to go back down the mountain. You are to stay visible at the top so they can find you. You are to speak words of power and affirmation into the ether for them to hear. You are to see what is happening down below from a higher perspective, to see all sides and know the truth. Be the light atop the mountain. Hold the grounded energy of strength and power for all those who feel distracted and confused and angry and under attack. This is so important. This is the antidote. This is the medicine. This is the victory to remain atop the mountain. Your people are seeking your light. Shine it bright, project it out as far as you can in all directions, but do not go back down the mountain. There will be a time when we all walk back down together, but for now, you're needed at the top. Hold the frequency, hold the light, and be the beacon. So did you get that? Did you get that message? Stay atop the mountain. Don't go back down the mountain. It is so tempting. I have caught myself doing this multiple times since I received this transmission, but it's a powerful mantra if you find yourself enticed, because these conversations, these memes, this content, these debates are intoxicating. They are so enticing to the point of being addictive. And so it's really important that we have awareness of that. The devices that are used in a lot of the content that's created that we feel a compulsion to share, to spread the truth, is underpinned by very low frequency sound and music. Very low frequency words. They're not words of power. They're words of control. They're words of victimhood. This is why I think the message that came through from the guides, and the more I sit with this message, I've re-listened to it a number of times now. I've been working so strongly with mountain energy, and I do think these are my mountain guides coming through. Obviously, they're talking about being mountains, literally. They are so direct with their wisdom and their directions and their advice. And so I'm just going to call it and say the mountains are guiding us here to embody their strength, embody their power, embody their height. They are literally holding the space above the ground to allow anyone with the will, with the vision to climb up to the top, to see everything for all that it is, like a bird. And this is what happens when you go through these stages of awakening, that you all of a sudden have your eyes opened to stuff that you couldn't see or perceive or understand before. You graduate to a new level of perception, a new level of understanding, and that knowledge that you gain as you go on your journey, when it becomes embodied through experience, and you start to understand it more than just intellectually, that's when it becomes wisdom. And so if you are listening to me now, sharing this message is for you. You are the beacon, you are the light, and you are not to go down the mountain. So there are people waking up right now who are going to be going on a very similar journey that we went on. They don't have to, though. This is the thing. If we stand atop those mountains like the people who are further progressed on the path did for us, we can guide them so they don't have to suffer as much as we did. We can guide them so they don't have to get caught up in these traps that this message spoke of as deeply or as frequently or as painfully as we did. They're not having to forge these paths by themselves if they don't need to. We can be there saying, hey, I already did that work for you. This path, it's not easy, but it's clear, and I'm here waiting for you. I'm holding this frequency of what it is to ascend to the higher level. This could be a little outpost or a checkpoint on the way to the summit, or it could be the summit itself before you then travel back down the mountain and start a new journey up a taller mountain, a more challenging mountain. The journey never ends, my friends. It just, I want to say, becomes, the challenges don't go away, but it's easier to traverse them. And there's more humor and more lightness and more joy. You are actually more capable of traversing through challenge because you can do it with a lighter soul. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful journey. And why would we give that up to go back to the place where we were and get stuck in a loop that someone else has designed for us? So I like conspiracy theories. I don't like politics anymore. I had a point in my life, for a long time in my life, I thought it was a very righteous thing to be all about politics and be actively on the right side and talking about it constantly, and just what you're doing really is just punishing people, spewing your projections about morality onto others instead of actually living your own morality, outsourcing the things that you're unhappy with in your life to these external forces of power. And they want you to do that. That's how they remain powerful. It's not until you start realizing that no matter how much I cared about politics, no matter how much I cared about social justice issues, no matter how much I cared about activism, which nowadays contains very little action, nothing changed, because change happens collectively. as evolution. Politicians don't bring change. Collectives of people bring change, and it's usually done in spite of politics, not within a political system. Even that is a bit too political for what I like to immerse myself in these days. And that's not because of spiritual bypassing, but it's because I understand that it is an absolute drain on my life force, on my vitality, on my creativity, on my relationships with people. It is a siphon of the most powerful human forces, the forces that enable us to create the reality that we want to live in. And so that's why it's so powerful to understand that every piece of content, even the stuff that I create, is in some form an op. This has been an incredibly freeing philosophy for me, because it means that I don't have to guilt myself so much on the choices that I make to do with right and wrong, because it just is, you know. And so things that I've seen, for instance, on social media channels and accounts that I go on, and I go on them, I consume the content. I've just gotten really good at discerning what's worth actually absorbing and giving my attention to, and like allowing into my field, allowing into my contemplation. I'm trying really hard, although being an elder millennial who's had a really big passion and hobby that focuses on and centers around the internet for such a long time, my attention span is just destroyed. And so I understand the temptation to take your news off like 20-second sound bites on Instagram and on TikTok. You might be like, they don't go for 20 seconds, they go for 2 minutes. Well, it's the same thing. If you're rejecting mainstream news, but you get your news off these platforms, just follow the money. It all goes back to the same place, and that is the op. If you think that you follow only the accounts that speak the truth, that truth is so recycled. And I've seen stuff this week where people, and it happens all the time, people sharing content that's like old, and the date's staring us in the face in the picture. And I'm not mentioning this to attack anyone, because I've done this too. I've shared this content previously, and I've also absorbed this content and taking it for granted that this is happening right now and it's real because someone shared it. And it's literally a picture. Pictures, I've worked in Photoshop in my job, and you can doctor anything in a picture. We know that that's what the dark forces do with videos now, but apparently anything that is exposed to us through the algorithm that the dark forces manage is immune. It doesn't make sense. This is cognitive dissonance. And that's why it was such a powerful piece of advice to actually stop being lazy and start, if you really truly care, and this was advice for me as much as everyone else that I'm sharing this with, if you really truly care about something, go and immerse yourself in learning about it. Don't be satisfied with a soundbite or a picture telling you the truth of something, because no truth is that simple. If you think about the truths that you've discovered in your own life, in your own inward journey, many truths are really simple, but it's a long journey to understand the simplicity of a truth. And it's not the same thing as consuming a meme and taking it for granted. That's different. So that's the first thing I want to say. There's a clear message about discernment here, and it's really sharp and it's really cutting. We need to stop being lazy and just stop reposting crap, because we might think we're spreading truth, that we're opening people's eyes, but we're not thinking about the devices, the emotionally triggering and energetically interfering devices. And I'm talking about the music, the sound effects, the words, and the images that make up this content. We're not thinking about the effect that has on the physicality, the nervous system, the tissue, the brain of the person consuming it. We need to become more responsible. And I thought that was such powerful advice, that if you really care about something you consume, rather than sharing it mindlessly, Speak it in your truth, in your own words. Come to your own comprehension, your own understanding, and then share that understanding. We've got to stop just sharing and reposting because this stuff is toxic. And it doesn't matter if the message is from who you perceive to be on your team or the right team. It's not about teams anymore. It's actually about vibration and energy. And I know you all know that, but we get caught in this trap. And the same goes for politics. This is going to start really ramping up soon with all the stuff that's happening in the US. Don't buy in. They're all the same people. Trace the money back. It all comes to the same place. That again is the whole everything is an op. Just check out, okay? I come from a country now. I'm not going to tell anyone how they should vote or anything like that, but I come from a country where you have to vote. They have systems in place and laws around showing up and ticking your name off a list to vote. And if you don't do that, you get fined. That is not freedom. That is not democracy in my mind. Some countries look to us being like, what a fantastic model. We should have that here. No, when everyone's forced to vote, no side of politics has to try because we're going to show up anyway and just pick whoever. You know, some people might be really passionate about who they're choosing to put in that box, but a big proportion of people don't care either way and they'll just pick someone. Again, I don't even like talking about politics anymore. It's not something I actually care about, but I do care about all of you, and I care about your nervous systems, and I care deeply about your journeys. I care about your spirits, and I care about your energy bodies. So this is loving advice from me and my mountain guides and any other guides that are coming through. They're wanting me. Your guides are coming through me, wanting you to hear this message. That be very aware of the time, the energy, the brain power, the passion, the vitality, the life force, the creativity that you give to these kinds of, as the message called it, polarity tricks. The idea is to pull you to an extreme of either polarity so that you are as far away as possible from the center point of infinite possibility. If you think about that figure 8 I spoke of in the last episode, that is a symbol for this powerful force, that if you're at the very edges of the 8, of either side of the 8, you are the furthest away you can be from the 0 point field in the center, the quantum field where anything is possible, where the future you dream of is possible. That frequency resides there. It doesn't reside in the polarity. And we live in a reality that is polarized. So again, this isn't about spiritual bypassing. This is actually just about acceptance of reality, that we have to, as an evolved being, become good at navigating polarity and understanding that when you feel yourself pulled to the edge, that it's your job to return yourself to the center where anything is possible. All right, so holding the frequency at the top of the mountain, being that beacon of light, that beautiful, bright, welcoming beacon, this is our job. And no matter where you're on your journey, if you're hearing this message, this is a direction for you. Do not go down that mountain. The people waking up right now need you to remain elevated, to remain light and bright, holding that highest frequency. That is what you're here to do right now. And don't allow the tricks of whatever you want to call the controlling forces of this realm, those heavier frequencies, to pull you back down the mountain. It's so important. We are needed. This is why you are here. And so I hope this message hasn't created any kind of fear in you. It might feel a bit like, ooh, that's challenging to hear. I felt that way after I tapped it all into my phone. I was like, whoa, this is a pretty extreme message. This is very direct. This itself could be received in a way that might make you feel a bit scared of what's to come. I have another message to share that came from me, my heart. This isn't a channeled message. This is something I feel very deeply that I've been reflecting on a lot, because people in my world have been sharing stuff that they've been hearing about, whether you call that conspiracy or premonitions, or I'm not really sure what you want to call it, but that things are going to get difficult again soon, that there's going to potentially be another wave of control or something like that. I want to say, like, if you hear that messaging in your realm, and I'm putting it out there, just know this can happen at any time. What the past wave we went through taught us was that we were blissfully unaware of what lay ahead of us in 2019. We were just going through the normal motions that have existed for years and years and years, and all of a sudden the regular programming was interrupted. And one of the lessons of that was that can happen anytime for us in the future. That can happen anytime again, perhaps when we're least expecting. We don't need to be like planning our bug outs and digging bunkers. It's not about that. It's about being ready in the heart. The preparation in the heart is just to be leaning into the frequencies of joy and love and generosity and appreciation as often as you can, because when you have anchored those frequencies into your body, it's much easier to deal with those kinds of events, no matter how small or big they are. And the more you can do that, the more you attract and magnetize other energies, whether they're people or guides or animals or whatever it might be, into your field that resonate with that energy, that are able to keep you up rather than dragging you down. So that if something like this happens again, which it is inevitable that it will, you will be in a much better place to actually get through it with less suffering and less pain, and to be a greater support to others in your world. But let's play devil's advocate and say there is something coming soon. We'll believe all these like conspiracy theory narratives that are starting to seed into our spheres. This is my outlook, and I want to share it with you because I think it's super empowering, and this is what I truly believe, and I hope you all do too. This is also something really useful if you're hearing people get dragged back into the 2020 narratives, 2021 narratives of feeling victimized and looping in the victimhood, the anger, the judgment of people who weren't on their team, who made them suffer. This is also a beautiful message for anyone falling into that aspect of this as well. This is something that I'm going to recite from a response to a chat in a beautiful chat group I'm a part of on Telegram. And it was this revival of these COVID narratives. And I'd done some complaining myself, and then I was like, this isn't the imprint I want to leave on this beautiful group of souls that I love. I said, yes, it was total insanity. Noting I lived the Australian experience, it was absolute insanity. But I'm done with being mad about it. So many people woke up and have connected with their inner truth because of it. It was a catalyst for reconnection. I'm grateful and appreciative because I am so much more powerful now, and so are all of you. If the power brokers want to force another event like that, bring it on. There are so many more light workers activated now and ready to hold the frequency of truth. And this time we will do it with more love and less fear and less judgment. And so I think they will be my parting words. I hope you felt empowered by this message, and I hope that it's brought you some clarity of a path forward when things get messy. Come back to this message, come back to the image of the mountain, come back to your inner light that is the beacon atop that mountain, guiding others to ascend, to rise up, to evolve. And then look out into your vast mountain range and see all your fellow lightworkers atop their mountains, waving at you, doing little Morse code signals, shining their lights back at you. Imagine that part too. You're not alone up here. There are so many of us up here now, and let's all hold each other in the highest frequency of light. Until next time, the highest frequencies of peace and love and light are beaming out to you all.